Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of the Angry Artist Podcast. Now normally I talk about stuff that will help you in your own work, so art fundamentals, art theory, that type of stuff. You can check out those podcasts in my channel. However, this topic was very juicy on Reddit and I decided I wanted to contribute to the discussion. This is, as the title would say, is the Tim Bengel controversy. Now, for those who don't know, this artist has been making headlines for his sand and glue artwork. He would claim that he uses glue and sand to create these magnificent pictures of cityscapes, of architecture, of celebrities. Now, as of this moment, the front page of Reddit has a video exposing him as someone who uses a doctored photograph. And the photographs aren't his, I would assume, and he just simply uses filters in order to create that effect. Now, I don't know if his process is to print the photograph on a piece of paper and unveiling it, or if he actually traces the photographs using sand and glue. Since he's had exhibition shows in New York, I will just assume that he actually has made these images with sand and glue. Now, the thread on Reddit has a lot of outrage regarding this because a lot of people mentioned they were convinced that this guy is the real deal, that his process is genuine. While I understand that there's a lot of people who really wanted to believe this guy is as impressive as he deems to be, I think the outrage is going into the wrong direction, and I'll tell you why. And it has to do with the modern arts industry right now. If you were surprised by how disingenuous this guy was, then you should know there are a lot of artists like this in the fine arts industry. And it's been a problem for decades. Now, I am a digital illustrator and concept artist, so you might think I'm not really well versed in this. But I do know a lot of fine artists who are trying to break into the industry. If you are a traditionalist like myself, then you would think, oh man, this Tim Bengel guy is really not an artist, or man, there's no way this is art. However, let me remind you that the modern arts industry, especially when it comes to New York scene, there's a lot of weird art going on. There's a lot of gimmicks. And I don't want to assume that Tim Bengel is simply printing it on a canvas, but I commend him for being able to trick people into thinking that these were genuinely his photorealistic freehand work. Do I need to remind people that urinals on a pedestal is considered passable when it comes to this scene? So this begs the question, why is this enabled? And the answer is very simple. And it's because there's a lot of people with a lot of money in that scene, and they probably don't know better or they don't care. Now, I know I don't want to sound elitist here. I understand that a lot of people aren't well versed in this type of thing. But I do want to mention that this is definitely not new, and I'm just happy people are starting to get it. I haven't seen outrage of this caliber on fine arts in a long time, and it really opens up discussions when it comes to what is art. A lot of people in the Reddit thread appropriately mentioned stencil art and how that might change things. Maybe he's using a stencil. The fact that we can't even differentiate and expose what he's doing is a big issue of discussion. I would assume if he's had exhibitions, then people are paying him for his work. The people buying his art clearly don't care. Well, people might be like, well, angry Asian artists, just because people are paying for this work doesn't mean it's good art, and yes, you would be correct. This really puts us in the position of asking, what is art? At what point do we cut off from saying this process is so disingenuous that it's not art anymore? I remember when these were being posted and I realized there were a lot of people who were impressed by this. If you didn't know any better, if let's say the exposing videos were not there, then would you have known any better? You would still think this guy is the real deal. Now, we have to assume that there are a lot of people who don't use Reddit and don't use YouTube, and they're paying a lot of money for these works. And I'm here to point out that the outrage for this type of practice is misguided, because yes, you have the right to be mad at the fact that Tim Bengel kind of tricked you into thinking that he's doing these freehand. But should we not be angry that people like these are being paid a lot of money to be able to game the system? And trust me, as a professional artist, I understand the outrage. I want to be mad at this type of thing because I go through art school to learn the art fundamentals of painting and drawing, and I'm probably not making nearly as much money as this guy probably is. And even if money wasn't the issue, he's getting a lot of publicity for it. However, you have to understand this from the people who have been in this type of scene for a long time. You have to understand that there has been a lot of liberal definitions of what art is. Again, we've passed urinals as art. You could literally trick people into thinking a garbage can is art. So, if you're angry at Tim Bengel, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening in this industry? Now, I live in Canada, and I remember being angry at a headline years ago where the Canadian government paid millions of dollars for literally a few stripes on a canvas. It's this type of thing that's making people like Tim Bengel get away with it. So this type of stuff has been par on course for a long time, and people keep feeling it. So yes, maybe Tim isn't as genuine as you first thought. In that case, you have every right to be outraged. However, do you really blame him for gaming the system that's already in place? I'm going to be honest and say, while his images are clearly doctored on Photoshop, and his process isn't exactly genuine, but really, I've seen everything when it comes to New York art, and this is probably not even close to the worst gimmick I've seen. So I'm hoping this at least raises discussions for you and really open the mind of others when it comes to this type of thing, because again, it's been going on for a long time. For those who understand fine arts, you realize that it's basically all connections and how much those higher ups like you. While skill matters, it's not the end all be all. You could get away with blank canvases if you know the right people, if you know what I'm saying. I can't control how people spend their money, and I can't control how they share this news. If you don't like how this guy has been doing his work, just don't support it. Just don't be surprised when people like these appear, because again, the industry enables it. Anyways, if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening to this. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, feel free to do so down below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.